The following presentation will discuss all of the numerical riddles and rituals that led to the Rangers' first World Series title. Through gematria, the practice of coding letters into numbers, it becomes obvious that mainstream sports, politics, and current events are all scripted by this code, which originates as an ancient Jewish practice. Most of the information that I'm about to cover I have already mentioned in past videos and live streams, although there is a lot of new information too. If just the games were rigged and scripted, it wouldn't be a huge problem. But as I will show in this video, the results of the games pay tribute to current events and history, oftentimes tragedies, and people are literally killed for these games, which makes it truly sickening. Let's dive into it, shall we? Stephen F. Austin is known as the Father of Texas, so much that the state capital is named after him. Father of Texas equals 68, and the AL now has 68 World Series championships. His name also equals 58, like Freemasonry, and he was born on the day leaving 58 days left in the year, and the Rangers won it all 58 days before the anniversary of Texas becoming a state. Stephen F. Austin equals 177 and 201. Stephen F. Austin State University joined the UT system on May 10, 2023, a date with 58 numerology, which was 177 days before his birthday, and the UT system currently has a $2.01 billion budget, and Texas has been a state for 177 years. He died a span of 66 days before Texas Independence Day, and Texas equals 66. Texas became a state on 12/29, the 201st prime number, 56 days after what would have been Austin's 52nd birthday, and this was the Rangers' 52nd season in Texas. The Rangers won it all 56 days before the 187th anniversary of his death. He was part of Lodge 111, and the Rangers won it all on 11/1 by a score of 5-0. Arizona has been a state for 111 years. He would have been 229 years old if still alive, and 229 is the 50th prime number. The Rangers picked up their 34th playoff win, and Freemasonry equals 139, the 34th prime. The victory parade was held on his birthday. Texas Independence Day is 3/2. Lone Star equals 32, and there are 32 sun rays on the Jesuit logo. The Cowboys' first Super Bowl victory came in Roger Staubach's 32nd career game played. The Stars' first and only Stanley Cup championship came in their 32nd season. The Spurs' first NBA championship came in their 32nd season as well. The Rockets' first NBA championship came when Hakeem Olajuwon was 31, meaning he was in his 32nd year of life. They won the '94 finals on Clyde Drexler's 32nd birthday, and although he wasn't on the Rockets yet, it set the stage for the next season when he was on the team, when he and a 32-year-old Olajuwon led the Rockets to their second title. The Mavericks won their first and only NBA championship, led by a 32-year-old Dirk Nowitzki. The first Super Bowl to be played in the state of Texas was won by the Dolphins, who capped off a 2-year stretch of going 32-2. More on that number in a moment. Funny enough, this was the first ever Super Bowl in Houston, played on 1/13, and the Astros' first World Series championship came in the 113th edition. Speaking of the Astros, there's no 32 connection that stands out with their first World Series championship, but they did win it in their 56th season, and then they won their second championship on the day leaving 56 days left in the year. The first Super Bowl to be played at what is now NRG Stadium was won by the Patriots with 32 points on the 32nd day of the year. The Rangers won the World Series by picking up their 32nd all-time win against the Diamondbacks, where 32-year-old Mitch Garver hit the game-winning RBI. Adolis Garcia was born on 3/2. He hit the walk-off home run in Game 1, 239 days after his birthday, which is the 52nd prime, and the Rangers are in their 52nd season in Texas, to win the game 6-5 on the day, leaving 65 days left in the year. Corey Seager won World Series MVP, who 3 years earlier won the same award when he led the Dodgers to their first World Series title in 32 years at the Rangers ballpark. Skull and Bones is a secret society at Yale. Prescott, George H.W., and George W. Bush were all members of this order. As you can see, 322 is a very important number to this group. Skull and Bones equals 41, and George H.W. was president number 41, like how the series ended 4-1. He was born on June 12th, the day leaving 202 days left in the year, and Skull and Bones equals 202. He died at the age of 94, like how the Diamondbacks finished the season on 94 wins. HW would be 99 if still alive today, and the Rangers won Game 7 of the ALCS by winning for the 99th time this season. The memorial service for George H.W. was held on December 5th, 2018, a span of 322 days before Game 1 of the World Series between the Washington Nationals and Houston Astros. He died in Houston, then his body was flown to Washington, and then back to Texas, which mimicked the 2019 World Series. This means that Game 7 of the All-Texas ALCS ended 3 months and 22 days after the anniversary of his funeral. In that game, Max Scherzer pitched 2 2/3 innings 4 years and 1 day after starting Game 1 for the Nationals in the 2019 World Series in Houston. In that series, the road team won every game, just like this year's ALCS. George W. was president number 43, and Yale equals 43. George W. was born on July 6, 1946, and Skull and Bones equals 76. The Rangers finished the season with 76 losses. 7/6 is the 187th day of the year, just like Society of Jesus. Texas became independent from Mexico 187 years ago and has been a state for 177 years. And the Jesuit Order and George Walker Bush equal 177. This year, the World Series started a span of 3 weeks and 22 days after George W.'s birthday. The All-Texas ALCS started on October 15th, the day leaving 77 days left in the year, and George W. is 77 years old. This was also a span of 102 days afterwards. More on that number later. It finished 3 months and 17 days after his birthday, and 317 is the 66th prime, and Texas equals 66. With the Rangers win in Game 7, the Astros finished the season with 77 losses. The Georgia Guidestones were erected on 3/22, 1980. Destroyed on 7/6, 2022, George W.'s 76th birthday, and 201 days after the Pope's birthday. This was 187 days before Georgia beat Texas Christian in the college football national championship game. This year, 2023, has already had a lot of skull and bones symbolism since skull and crossbones equals 223. This series had a combined 48 runs scored, and 223 is the 48th prime number. Skull and Bones also equals 149, the 35th prime number, and the Rangers now have 35 postseason losses. Catholic also equals 35, and Interstate 35 runs through Texas and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. JFK, president number 35, was assassinated just off of I-35. Corey Seager won Series MVP a span of 179 days, the 41st prime, before his birthday, as the Rangers won the series 4-1. It was also 26 weeks and 6 days after his birthday, and Ius Hominum Salvator equals 266, or 6 months and 5 days, and Yale equals 65. The Cowboys' first Super Bowl victory came in the NFL's 52nd season, like how the Rangers just won the World Series in their 52nd season in Texas. The Super Bowl was played during the off-season, in which the Rangers moved from Washington, D.C. to Arlington, Texas. Super Bowl VI had 27 combined points, and 103 is the 27th prime number, like how the Rangers won 103 games this season. The MVP of Super Bowl VI was Roger Staubach, whose birthday is the 5th of February, or 5/2. This is the 36th day of the year, like how Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers both equal 151, the 36th prime number. Staubach threw for 119 yards in that Super Bowl, like how the Rangers just won the 119th World Series. The Rangers won the World Series 3 months and 4 days before his 82nd birthday, like how the Rangers now have 34 playoff wins, and Rangers equals 82. It was also 269 days after his birthday, the 57th prime, and Roger Staubach and World Series both equal 57. Bruce Bochy now has 57 playoff wins. His full name, Roger Thomas Staubach, equals 110, like how the Rangers went 11-0 on the road these playoffs. The Cowboys' last Super Bowl victory and appearance came in the NFL's 76th season, like how the Rangers finished the season with 76 losses. This game was also played in Arizona, like how the Rangers just won the World Series in Arizona. The Cowboys won with 27 points, and the Rangers again finished the season with 103 wins, the 27th prime. This concluded the 1995 NFL season, which was 28 years ago, and Rangers equals 107, the 28th prime. The game was also on the 28th day of the year. There were 44 combined points, and Rangers equals 44. This was Super Bowl 30, and the Rangers entered the World Series with 30 playoff wins. The MVP of the game was Larry Brown, and the World Series ended 29 days before his birthday, and 29-year-old Corey Seager just won MVP. What's interesting is that the Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls, and the other 3 teams in the Metroplex, the Stars, Mavericks, and Rangers, each have 1 championship, for a total of 3, like 5-3, and the Cowboys' Super Bowl record is 5-3. I often joke that if the Cowboys want to win a 6th Super Bowl, they'll have to change their logo to the Star of David. More on that later. The aforementioned George W. Bush was president during the attacks of September 11, 2001, a date with 41 numerology, and Skull and Bones equals 41. Exactly 11 years earlier, his dad, President number 41, gave a speech to Congress about a new world order. George W. graduated from Yale in 1968 among 911 graduates. September 11th is a span of 68 days after his birthday. In 1968, these other notable events happened as well. The first 911 call was made. Construction of the World Trade Center began. The New York Jets won their first and only Super Bowl. Terror also equals 68, as does CIA and Seattle, Washington, where the firm who designed the World Trade Center is from. More on that city in a moment. The American League just won their 68th World Series in the 119th edition, with 68-year-old Bruce Bochy as manager. In Game 4, the Rangers played their 68th playoff game 117 days after George Bush's birthday, and they won 11-7. George Bush is 77 years old right now, and on 9/11, we're told that Flight 77 crashed into the 77-foot-tall Pentagon, a building on the 77th meridian, 77 minutes after taking off at 777 feet per second. The first plane hit the North Tower at 8:46, and the last plane crashed in Pennsylvania at 10:03, 77 minutes later. I can't forget to mention that the flight numbers of the 3 planes that hit targets add up to 263, like skull and crossbones. 263 is the 56th prime number, like Society of Jesus, and this World Series matchup was between the number 5 seed and 6 seed. The New York Rangers won the 1994 Stanley Cup Finals. Perhaps their most well-known win of that run was Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the New Jersey Devils, where Stéphane Matteau scored the game-winning goal in double overtime. That was in 1994, 29 years ago, and Matteau was born on a date that can be written 2/9, like how 29-year-old Corey Seager just won Series MVP. Remember, George H.W. Bush died at age 94, and the Diamondbacks finished the season with 94 wins. Earlier this year, the Devils knocked out the Rangers in the first round on the 12-year anniversary of the announcement of the death of Osama Bin Laden, which was a span of 26 weeks and 3 days before the Rangers won the World Series. New Jersey is important because it equals 119 and was the scene of the infamous Dancing Israelis on 9/11. Star of David also equals 119. They were found outside the Doric apartment complex, which equals 322, as does Abrahamic religions and ancient mystery religions, which includes Kabbalah, where this practice of coding letters and numbers comes from. More on Israel later. Pearl Harbor was the event that kick-started the U.S.'s involvement in World War II on December 7, 1941. 9/11 was called the New Pearl Harbor, and buildings 1, 2, and 7 came down that day. The Pentagon, another building hit on 9/11, was constructed starting on September 11, 1941. The USS Arizona sank at Pearl Harbor, and the Arizona Diamondbacks won the 2001 World Series. This series also started on October 27th, just like this one. Earlier in 2001, Seattle hosted the MLB All-Star Game, which the American League won 4-1. Seattle Mariners equals 179, the 41st prime. That year, the Mariners won 116 games in the regular season, which is 9/11 rotated 180 degrees. They entered the ALCS with 119 wins, like how 9/11 is written 11/9 in most of the world. They eventually lost to the New York Yankees 4-1, who advanced to the 97th World Series, and Mariners equals 97 and 119. To add some more Seattle-New York connections, Seattle was originally named New York. The Rangers just won the 119th World Series, and the All-Star Game this year was in Seattle again. This was the 93rd edition of the game, which is an extremely important number to 9/11. 8 years earlier, the World Trade Center was bombed in 93. Flight 175 hit the South Tower at 9:03. Nathan Eovaldi won Game 5 of the World Series to improve to 17-5 on the season and 9-3 in the playoffs all-time, a span of 119 days after George W. Bush's birthday. This won't be the last time we'll talk about 93. Eovaldi's name sounds like Uvalde, the site of the school shooting in Texas last year, and he has had many rituals synced up with that event. In Game 5, he pitched 6 innings, striking out 5 batters, and Uvalde equals 65. Back to 2001, the Diamondbacks won the World Series 4-3 over the Yankees, winning on 11/4. World War and Art of War equal 114. They also both equal 102, and 9/11 was said to have lasted 102 minutes. The media made a big deal about how 2 years ago, the Rangers and Diamondbacks lost 102 and 110 games respectively, and there are 110 stories on the World Trade Center towers. This was also the first World Series to go as far as November 1st, 11/1, like how 9/11 was on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year. The Diamondbacks went 11-6 in those playoffs, like how the Mariners won 116 games that year. That means their overall record was 103-76, which is the same overall record that the Rangers finished with this year. The Yankees went 10-7 in those playoffs, like how Rangers equal 107, and the Diamondbacks also went 10-7 in this year's playoffs. George Bush threw out the first pitch for Game 3 of that series, just like he threw out the first pitch for Game 1 of this year's World Series, which was a span of 114 days after his birthday. The Rangers won Game 3 of this year's World Series, improving to 11-4 in the playoffs by a score of 3-1, and buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell on 9/11, and 127 is the 31st prime number. In Game 4, the Rangers got their 102nd win of the season by the score of 11-7, 117 days after George W. Bush's birthday. Like 2001 and 2023, the 2010 World Series also started on October 27th. The San Francisco Giants, managed by current Rangers manager Bruce Bochy, defeated the Rangers 4-1 in a series which had 41 combined runs, winning on November 1st in Arlington, Texas, which equals 179, the 41st prime. With that win, the Giants won their first World Series in 56 years, just 3 months before the Super Bowl was played right down the street, which had 56 combined points scored, with the Packers becoming 4-1 in Super Bowls. The Rangers also won this year's World Series on November 1st. For the Giants, it was a tribute to their history, as they used to be in New York, which equals 111. With the win, the Giants had 34 playoff wins since the franchise moved to San Francisco, and the Rangers now have 34 playoff wins. They went 11-4 that postseason, and San Francisco Giants equals 114. They also finished the season with 103 wins, just like this year's Rangers. 2010 was the Rangers' 50th season as a franchise, and San Francisco equals 50. What's even more interesting is that both the 2010 Giants and 2023 Rangers were making their first playoff appearance in 7 years, in which their last playoff game had been a heartbreaking 7-6 loss, and they each won the league championship series on October 23rd against the defending league champion on the road. What do you know, George Bush threw out the first pitch for Game 4 of this World Series as well. 5 years later, the 2015 World Series joined the party of starting on October 27th and finishing on November 1st. The Royals defeated the Mets 4-1 in New York on 11/1 to win the 111th World Series. Speaking of the Royals, the last World Series that Bochy won with the Giants was the 110th World Series over said Royals, and the Rangers just went 11-0 on the road in these playoffs. If we knew gematria back in 2011, we might have picked the Rangers to win the 107th World Series, but instead the scriptwriters had the Rangers go 10-7 in that year's playoffs. The Rangers wouldn't make it back to the World Series, let alone win another playoff series for another 12 years. Rangers equals 37, the 12th prime. The Cardinals won that infamous Game 6 to get to 10-7 in those playoffs. Funny enough, 2 players that helped the Rangers win the World Series, Adolis Garcia and Jordan Montgomery, used to play for the Cardinals. Osama Bin Laden was born on the 69th day of 1957. World Series equals 69 and 57. Texas equals 69, and the Rangers won the World Series in their 69th playoff game. Bruce Bochy got his 57th playoff win against the D-backs in their 57th playoff game. Osama was killed on 5/2, and his dad had 52 children, and this was the Rangers' 52nd season in Texas. In a complete mockery, when word of his death reached the United States, there was a Sunday night baseball game going on between the New York Mets and the Phillies, where the score was 1-1 in the 9th inning. Osama Bin Laden equals 110, like how there were 110 stories on the World Trade Center towers, and the Rangers went 11-0 on the road in the playoffs. He was born on the 10th of March, a date that can be written 10/3, and the Rangers finished the season with 103 wins. Bin Laden would be 66 years old right now if still alive, and Texas equals 66. Bin Laden equals 61, and the Rangers won the World Series 6 months and 1 day before the anniversary of his death. His full name, Osama bin Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden, equals 261, and the Rangers won the World Series 26 weeks and 1 day before and after the anniversary of his death. Corey Seager hit the game-tying home run in Game 1 26 weeks and 1 day after his birthday as well, which was exactly 3 years after he won the World Series with the Dodgers in the same ballpark. Osama bin Laden's dad died mysteriously in a plane crash on September 3, 1967, the day leaving 119 days left in the year. Exactly 56 years later, the Rangers beat the Twins 6-5 on a walk-off home run from Adolis Garcia, who would go on to hit a walk-off home run in Game 1 of the 119th World Series to win the game 6-5. These two games were 54 days apart, and Adolis Garcia equals 54. His real first name is Jose, and since he's from a Spanish-speaking country, he has two last names. Not including the letters with accent marks, Jose Garcia Arrieta equals 65. Including the letters with accents, Jose Garcia also equals 65, and Jose Garcia Arrieta equals 119. Just think about the comparisons. Twin cities, twin towers. Police were reportedly on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, just how like the first plane hit the Twin Towers at 8:46 a.m. Bin Laden's favorite sports team was Arsenal, which equals 119. I initially had a big section of this video talking about the Gunners, but decided that it was too big and it will be a video on its own in the future. Arsenal FC equals 56, and the current manager, Mikel Arteta, was born on the 26th of March, written 26/3 over there, which is the 56th prime. Arsenal Football Club also equals 322. This year is the 32nd Premier League season, and Arsenal's 107th in the top flight, like Rangers equals 107. They lost to West Ham in the League Cup 1-3, just hours before the Rangers won the World Series 4-1, and 41 is the 13th prime. There is a Scottish soccer team called Rangers, and they won 5-0 over Dundee earlier in the day on November 1st before the Texas Rangers won their game by the same score. Dundee equals 26, 109, and 28, like how the Diamondbacks stayed on 26 all-time wins against the Rangers, picked up their 29th playoff loss as 109 to 29th prime, and stayed on 28 playoff wins. Arsenal is back in Champions League this year, the 69th edition of the tournament. Remember, Osama was born on the 69th day of the year. The final will be played at Wembley Stadium 67 days after Mikel Arteta's birthday. This will also be 83 days, or 11 weeks and 6 days, after what would be Osama's 67th birthday, and football equals 83. Something to think about 6 months from now. The Houston Astros, the other Texas team, won their first World Series on 11/1 on the road. Would you guess that George W. Bush threw out the first pitch for Game 5 of this World Series? George H.W. Bush was seen in a wheelchair on the field with the Astros, celebrating after they won. The Astros went 11-7 in those playoffs, and Central Intelligence Agency equals 117, like how he was once the director of the CIA. Just how the Rangers' previous World Series appearance was 12 years ago, the Astros' previous World Series appearance was also 12 years prior, in 2005, when they were swept by the White Sox, who were the last World Series winner to go undefeated on the road in the postseason until this year's Rangers. Pat Mahomes Sr. pitched the aforementioned 2001 season with the Texas Rangers. Because of 9/11, the end of the regular season was postponed from September 30th to October 7th. Mahomes Sr. got the win for the Rangers in their final game of the season against the Seattle Mariners, finishing the year with a 7-6 record, like Skull and Bones equals 76. Mahomes pitched in 56 games, had a 5.70 ERA, and threw 107 1/3 innings. Skull and Bones equals 263, the 56th prime, World Series equals 57, and Rangers equals 107. The Rangers got their 73rd and final win of the season on 10/7, and this won't be the last time we'll talk about that number and that date. Mahomes' son, the Chiefs quarterback, just won Super Bowl 57 to finish the NFL's 103rd season in a game that was played in Arizona on the day leaving 322 days left in the year and had 73 combined points. Again, Bruce Bochy now has 57 playoff wins, the D-backs have played 57 playoff games, and the Rangers won 103 games. The Chiefs used to be the Dallas Texans. By winning Game 7 of the ALCS in Houston, the Rangers became 7-3 at Minute Maid Park for the season. The Chiefs beat the Eagles in Super Bowl 57, and the Rangers beat the Phillies to start the season, and the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies to end their season. That Rangers win over the Phillies on opening day was 267 days after George W. Bush's birthday, and it was by the familiar scoreline of 11-7. This game was on 76 date numerology when Bush was still 76 years old. The Rangers won the World Series 2 months and 23 days after Mahomes Sr.'s birthday, and skull and crossbones equals 223, and a span of 263 days after Super Bowl 57. His son was born on 17/9, like how 179 is the 41st prime number, and the Rangers won the World Series 6 weeks and 3 days after his 28th birthday. The Rangers just finished their 63rd season as a franchise, and Rangers equals 107, the 28th prime. The former Washington Nationals owner died on the day of Super Bowl 57 on 57 date numerology. Remember, Bochy got his 57th playoff win, and World Series equals 57. As I just said, this was a span of 263 days before the Rangers won the World Series, and 263 is the 56th prime number, and Washington, D.C. equals 56. The Texas Rangers also used to be the Washington Senators. This won't be the last time we'll talk about this connection. On March 21, 2023, Japan beat the U.S. to win the World Baseball Classic. Shohei Ohtani struck out Mike Trout on a 3-2 pitch to win the game 3-2, 32 weeks and 2 days after Trout's birthday. Ohtani equals 32. Shohei Ohtani equals 131, the 32nd prime. Trout equals 32. Angels, the team they both play for, equals 32. Marlins, where the game was played, equals 32. America equals 32. There are 32 sun rays on the Jesuit logo. The game was played on 31 date numerology, and Trout was 31 years old at the time. Even though the game was in the United States, it was already March 22nd, or 322, in Japan, which had 32 date numerology. The Angels and Rangers came into the league in the same season, 1961, and the Rangers beat the Angels in their 32nd game of the season on May 6th. More on that date in just a minute. As I said earlier, the Rangers now have 32 wins against the Diamondbacks, and the game-winning RBI was hit by 32-year-old Mitch Garver. Adolis Garcia, born on 3/2, and Evan Carter, who wears number 32, also had major contributions to the Rangers' postseason run. MVP Corey Seager had just helped the Dodgers snap a 32-year World Series title drought in the Rangers ballpark 3 years prior. Former Ranger Ian Kinsler was manager of the Israeli team at the World Baseball Classic. It's important to note that most of the Israeli team is made up of Jewish American players, including Kinsler, but not Israelis. Jewish equals 74, like how they played their last game on March 15th, the 74th day of the year. Kinsler and Jewish equal 34, and the Rangers now have 34 playoff wins. The Rangers played Game 1 of the World Series 127 days after Kinsler's 41st birthday, and the Rangers got their 31st playoff win, and 127 is the 31st prime. 41 is the 13th prime, and the Rangers played their first ever World Series game exactly 13 years prior, where Kinsler flew out to end the game. His birthday was also 107 days before October 7th, a date we'll talk about in much more detail later, and his full name, Ian Michael Kinsler, equals 107, like Rangers. The parade was held 134 days after his birthday, and the Rangers went 13-4 in the playoffs. Kinsler is 41 years old, and he's from Arizona, and the Rangers won the World Series 4-1 in Arizona. Ian Kinsler equals 68, like how the AL now has 68 World Series championships, and also 101, the 26th prime, and the Rangers now have 26 losses all-time against the D-backs. Kinsler also threw out the first pitch at Game 3 of the ALCS, which was a span of 119 days after his birthday. On May 6, 2023, There was a mass shooting at a Texas mall in the city of Allen, a suburb of Dallas. City of Allen equals 175, and this was a span of 175 days after Governor Abbott's birthday, and 175 days without the span after the birthday of Arturo Sosa, the Superior General of the Jesuits. Speaking of the Jesuits, this was on a date written 5/6, and the current pope is the first ever Jesuit pope. He goes by Pope Francis, which equals 175. May 6th is also the day leaving 239 days left in the year, the 52nd prime. Pope equals 52 and 56. Remember, this was the Rangers' 52nd season in Arlington, and Texas Rangers equals 52. This shooting occurred a span of 175 days before Game 1 of the World Series, which the Rangers won 5-6. All the headlines called it a Texas Mall, which equals 107, like Rangers. Game 1 of the World Series was also a span of 52 days before Pope Francis' birthday, and his full name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 111, like how they won the World Series on 11/1 in Arizona, which has been a state for 111 years, and Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo fell to 11-10 in the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets won their first NBA title 4-1 by outscoring the Heat by 41 points. This came on June 12th, the day leaving 202 days left in the year, which was George H.W. Bush's birthday, who was president, number 41. This came exactly 12 years after the Dallas Mavericks won their first NBA title over the Miami Heat as well, where number 41, Dirk Nowitzki, was Finals MVP in his 13th season, and 41 is the 13th prime number. Dallas equals 41, and it was founded in 1841. The Nuggets' victory came 20 weeks and 2 days before the Rangers' World Series title, which they won 4-1 as well. LSU won the 2023 College World Series, where there were 57 combined runs scored in the championship series, and Bruce Bochy now has 57 playoff wins. Manager Jay Johnson equals 41, and the Rangers eventually won the World Series 4-1. Tigers equals 39, and Johnson stayed on 39 losses with LSU, and the World Series this year finished in Arizona, which equals 39. This was the 76th college baseball tournament, and the Rangers finished the season with 76 total losses. Florida and LSU each entered the championship series with 68 total games played on the season, a foreshadow to 68-year-old Bruce Bochy getting the AL their 68th World Series championship. Remember, Rangers equals 52, and this was another key number in the tournament as LSU equals 52. They had 52 wins on the season entering the championship series. Wake Forest, the top seed, entered Omaha with 52 wins. The Cinderella team of the tournament was the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, and Golden Eagles equals 52. They finished the season with 52 wins, and Florida picked up their 52nd win of the season against them. Funny enough, the first game of the College World Series was an Oral Roberts comeback to get their 52nd win of the season by a score of 5-6, and Golden Eagles equals 56. This was against TCU, whose campus is not too far from where the Rangers play. Game 1 of the MLB World Series was a Rangers comeback to win 5-6. On June 28, 2023, Domingo Germán of the New York Yankees threw a perfect game against the Oakland A's, winning 11-0, for the first perfect game in MLB in 11 years. Germán threw this perfect game 37 days before his birthday, and perfect equals 37. Germán threw 99 pitches, and perfect game equals 99. No hitter equals 44, and the Yankees got their 44th win of the season. His perfect game was 4 months and 4 days before the Rangers won the World Series. Rangers equals 37 and 44, and they entered the World Series with 99 wins on the season. June 8th had 41 and 57 date numerology, and World Series equals 57, which ended 4-1. This was also the 28th of the month, and Rangers equals 107, the 28th prime. The inaugural Major League Cricket season started on July 13, 2023 in Grand Prairie, Texas, just down the road from Arlington. This was a date with 63 numerology and Major League equals 63. Remember, this was the Rangers' 63rd season as a franchise. The Texas Super Kings won by 69 runs, and Texas equals 69 just like cricket, and the Rangers eventually won the World Series in their 69th playoff game, and World Series equals 69. This was match 1 of 19, and it was a span of 107 days before Game 1 of the 119th World Series. The Texas Super Kings allowed 112 runs in that opener, and the Rangers won the World Series a span of 112 days later. That means it was 111 without the span, and Major League Cricket equals 111. Texas scored 181 runs, the 42nd prime, and the World Series finished in Arizona, which equals 42. The championship was eventually won by MI New York over Seattle on July 30th. Remember all the New York-Seattle connections from earlier? 9/11 occurred on the day leaving 111 days left in the year, and there were 110 stories on the World Trade Center towers. Major League Cricket and New York equal 111, and MI New York equals 110, reminding us that the Rangers won the World Series on 11/1, going 11-0 on the road in the playoffs. Afghan bowler Rashid Khan, whose name equals 93, allowed 9 runs and recorded 3 wickets 69 days before October 7th, the anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. We'll talk more about that in a bit. His name and Major League Cricket both equal 177, and Texas has been a state for 177 years. The final match was 13 weeks and 3 days before the World Series ended, and MI New York equals 133. The two teams combined for 367 runs, the 73rd prime. More on that number in a bit. The offensive star for MI New York was Nicholas Poole, who was born on 10/2. Rashid Khan was born on September 20th, the day leaving 102 days left in the year. Art of War and World War both equal 102, and 9/11 lasted 102 minutes. MI New York and Texas Rangers both equal 52, like it was the Rangers' 52nd season in Arlington. Before you reject the idea that the Little League World Series could be scripted, just ask yourself, why would ESPN televise 11 to 13-year-olds but won't broadcast minor league baseball, who are actual professionals? The 2023 Little League World Series was won by the team from California on the 239th day of the year. 239 is the 52nd prime, and California and Texas Rangers both equal 52. The team was from El Segundo, California, which equals 107, just like Texas Rangers. They won 6-5, like how the Rangers won Game 1 of the World Series 6-5 on the day leaving 65 days left in the year. Former Orioles legend Brooks Robinson died on September 26th, the 269th day of the year, the 57th prime. Just a few days later, former pitchers Tim Wakefield and Jim Poole died at the age of 57. World Series equals 57, and Bruce Bochy now has 57 playoff wins. Robinson died a span of 37 days before the Rangers won the World Series, and Rangers equals 37. Wakefield's full name, Timothy Stephen Wakefield, equals 111, and he died a span of 32 days before the Rangers won the World Series, where they got their 32nd win against the D-backs. Jim Poole's real name, James Poole, equals 111, and he died a span of 27 days before 11/1, when the Rangers won for the 103rd time this season, the 27th prime. Many historians say that Jesus was born in modern-day Israel on the 11th of September, a date written 11/9 in much of the world, and this was the 119th World Series. He is said to have been crucified from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Nazareth, God's son, crucifix, and the current Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, all equal 93. Jesus is God's son, not to be confused with the sun, which is reportedly 93 million miles away. On October 7th, 10/7, the Rangers got their 93rd win of the season by defeating the Orioles 3-2, becoming 3-2 all-time on that date. The logo of the Society of Jesus has a sun with 32 sun rays. Of course, the sun is a star, and the Texas, Arizona, and Israel flags all have stars on them. Texas and Arizona have 5-pointed stars, and Israel has a 6-pointed star, like how the World Series was a matchup between the 5 seed and the 6 seed. The Jesuit logo also features the Templar's cross and IHS, the monogram for Isus Hominum Salvator, which is the Christogram for the Jesuits. October 7th is the day leaving 85 days left in the year, and Templar and Isus Hominum Salvator both equal 85. The Diamondbacks finished the season with 85 losses. This is the day the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict began, and is also the day in history that the U.S. invaded Afghanistan after 9/11, and military equals 107. The Rangers won the ALCS by becoming 9-3 in the playoffs on the day leaving 69 days left in the year, and Benjamin Netanyahu equals 69. The Rangers beat the Israeli pitcher Dean Kramer in Game 3 of the ALDS 9 months and 3 days after his birthday. This was the Rangers' 95th win of the season against Baltimore, winning the game 7-1. The Jesuits were formed 201 months after the 95 Theses were published, which they were staunchly against. Later, Bruce Bochy picked up his 56th playoff win against the Diamondbacks in their 56th playoff game, exactly 506 years after the pinning of the 95 Theses. Remember how the end of the 2001 season was postponed from 9:30 to 10:07 because of 9/11? Recall, the Rangers got their 73rd and final win of the season that day. Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, was born on 5/2 and died on 7/3 at the age of 44, a span of 63 days after his birthday. As stated many times earlier, this was the Rangers' 52nd season in Texas, and Texas Rangers equals 52. Rangers equals 44, and it was their 63rd season overall. Theodor Herzl equals 73, as does Gaza and David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel. The Yom Kippur War was also in 73. The Rangers clinched a trip to the World Series by becoming 7-3 at Minute Maid Park for the season, and 2 games prior they were 7-3 in the playoffs. Current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came back into office on December 29th, the 177th anniversary of Texas becoming a state. Benjamin Netanyahu equals 177, and State of Israel equals 201, and 1229 is the 201st prime number. His name also equals 69, like how the Rangers won the World Series in their 69th playoff game. Netanyahu equals 37 and 44, like Rangers, and the day he came back into power was 307 days before the Rangers won the World Series. He is currently the head of the 37th government of Israel. Netanyahu also equals 134, and the Rangers went 13-4 in the playoffs. The Jewish holiday of Tisha B'Av is to commemorate the destruction of the 2 temples in Jerusalem, which were Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple. This is similar to how 9/11 was the destruction of the Twin Towers and Building 7, which was the Salomon Brothers building. Tisha B'Av equals 9/11 in the Jewish cipher. Again, don't ask me why Derek renamed it Latin. Tisha B'Av also equals 134, as does 9th of Av, its English translation, and so does terrorize. This year, Tisha B'Av was 93 days before Game 1 of the World Series. This postseason, the song Higher by Creed became the Rangers' unofficial theme song. The chorus of the song contains the lyrics, "Can you take me higher to a place where blind men see?" In the Bible, Jesus is known to have cured a man of his blindness. The band's name, Creed, is defined as, quote, a system of Christian or other religious belief, a faith. That's interesting because the conflicts in the Middle East are mostly because of religious differences, and the followers of Jesus are known as Christians. Rangers and Higher both equal 107. Creed equals 28, and 107 is the 28th prime number. The song is 24 years old, and the Rangers got their 24th playoff win on 10/7. The song is from the album human clay, which equals 145. This reminds us that Israel became a country on 14/5. Its first prime minister was David Ben-Gurion, whose name equals 145, and there are 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament than the Protestant version. When Creed finally showed up to the Rangers' home playoff game, they lost 8-5, falling to 7-1 in the playoffs. This was on the day leaving 74 days left in the year, or the 75th to last day of the year, and Israel has been recognized by the United Nations for 74 years and has been a country for 75. This song was in the movie The Skulls, starring Paul Walker, who died exactly 5 years before George Herbert Walker Bush died. This also comes in the time of the release of the latest installment of the Assassin's Creed video game series Mirage, which is set in the Arab world. Assassin's Creed equals 223. The theme song was sung by One Republic, which equals 57 and 177, like how Bruce Bochy got his 57th playoff win by winning the World Series, and Texas has been a state for 177 years. The song is 2 minutes and 14 seconds long, which equates to 134 seconds. Assassin's Creed Mirage equals 134, like how the Rangers went 13-4 in the playoffs. Mirage also equals 35 and 37, like how the Rangers now have 35 playoff losses, and Rangers equals 37. Mirage also equals 109, the 29th prime, like how the D-backs now have 29th playoff losses. The game was originally supposed to be released on October 12th, the day leaving 80 days left in the year, like Bavarian Illuminati equals 80. However, the release was moved up 1 week to October 5th, or 10/5, and Order of Illuminati and Zionism equal 105. It's funny that the World Series ended in Arizona, which has 4 matching values with Zionism, one of the main topics in the news right now. This new date was 27 days before the Rangers won the World Series, finishing the year with 103 wins, the 27th prime. The game is set in Baghdad, which equals 27. Former Washington Senator Frank Howard died just before Game 3 of the 119th World Series, which happened to be the 56th all-time matchup between the Rangers and Diamondbacks. His name, Frank Howard, equals 119 and 56. 3 also equals 56. Society of Jesus equals 56, and the Rangers won their 32nd playoff game that night, like how there are 32 sun rays on the Jesuit logo. Howard played for the Dodgers, Washington Senators, Rangers, and Tigers, and later managed the Mets. Max Scherzer, the Game 3 starter for the Rangers, also played for the Tigers, Washington Nationals, Dodgers, Mets, and now Rangers. Howard was still on the Senators when they moved to Texas and even played 95 games with the team in their inaugural season before being traded away. Max Scherzer started Game 3 95 days after his birthday. As a manager, Howard won 93 games across 2 seasons, last managing the New York Mets, like how Game 3 was 93 days after Scherzer was traded from the Mets to the Rangers. He managed 116 games with the Mets, which is 119 mirrored. Scherzer won the World Series with the Nationals, the team currently in Washington, D.C., exactly 4 years prior, a game in which he started and got a no decision as well. 39-year-old Scherzer began his career with Arizona and wore number 39 with them. Arizona and New York both equal 39. At the beginning of the year, I made a video on the death of former Texas Longhorns baseball head coach Cliff Gustafson, who passed away 41 days before his 92nd birthday. If you're familiar with Texas sports, those 2 numbers might sound familiar to you. The last ever major sports championship that Texas won was the 92nd Rose Bowl game, where they scored 41 points on a date that can be written 4/1, earning their 13th win of the season, and 41 is the 13th prime. Gustafson's 92nd birthday would have been on February 12th, the same day as the Super Bowl, and the day leaving 322 days left in the year. This was a span of 263 days before the Rangers won the World Series 4-1. He'd had a span of 304 days before then, and the Rangers won their 34th playoff game. The Rangers beat the Angels 7-3, exactly 73 days before Game 1 of the World Series. They beat the Twins 6-2 exactly 62 days before Game 1. They beat the Blue Jays 6-3 6 weeks and 3 days before Game 1. The Rangers were the only team to outscore their opponent 11-1 in the wildcard round, and they did so exactly 28 days before they eventually won the World Series on 11/1, and Rangers equals 107, the 28th prime. The Diamondbacks won by the scores of 6-3 and 5-2 in that round, and again, this was the Rangers' 63rd season overall and 52nd in Texas. The day before Game 3 of the World Series, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Rams with 63 combined points on the day, leaving 63 days left in the year, improving to 5-2 on the season. A few hours later, the Arizona Cardinals lost with 55 combined points the day before the Diamondbacks played their 55th ever playoff game. During Game 4 of the World Series, the San Antonio Spurs, who used to be in Dallas, had a comeback win against the Phoenix Suns. The Suns had 63 points at halftime, and there were 52 combined points scored in the fourth quarter. The Suns lost with 114 points the day after the Rangers improved to 11-4 in the playoffs. The Spurs scored 33 points in the fourth quarter, the same night the Rangers got their 33rd playoff win. On opening night, the Mavs beat the Spurs 126-119. On the night of Game 1 of the World Series, they beat the Nets, who used to be in New Jersey, by scoring 37 points in the fourth quarter. On the night of Game 3, Doncic led the way by scoring 35 points as the Rangers stayed on 35 playoff losses. On the night of Game 5, the Mavs won with 229 combined points, the 50th prime, and the Rangers won their game 5-0. The day before Game 1, the Dallas Stars lost to the Maple Leafs 4-1 as the Leafs improved to 5-2 on the season. The Leafs are going on 57 years without a Stanley Cup, something to think about later on. On the night of Game 3, the Stars won 3-5 as the Rangers stayed on 35 playoff losses. On the night of Game 5, the Stars beat the Flames, improving to 6-1-1 on the season, which is 119 upside down, dropping the Flames to 2-7-1. Where have I seen those numbers before? After Game 1 of the World Series, the Rangers improved to 10-3 in the playoffs, while the D-backs dropped to 9-4. This was a clue that the Rangers were going to finish the season with 103 wins, and the Diamondbacks with 94. Lastly, you gotta make the governor happy, I guess. The Rangers won the World Series 12 days before Governor Greg Abbott's 66th birthday. Again, 37 is the 12th prime, Rangers equals 37, and Texas equals 66. Abbott will turn 66 on the 317th day of the year, the 66th prime. He was sworn in as governor a span of 69 days after his 57th birthday. Again, for the last time, World Series equals 69 and 57, and the Rangers won the World Series in their 69th playoff game, while Bruce Bochy got his 57th playoff win against the D-backs in their 57th playoff game. Did I mention that Abbott was born in 57 as well? I have a few thank yous to give out. The first goes to Zach Hubbard. Without his sharing of the knowledge on the internet, I would not have known any of this information nor able to connect so many of these dots. His old blog and current website are excellent resources that have a wealth of information. Funny enough, I was going through my YouTube watch history, and I found that I started watching his videos on the wee hours of November 1st of all dates in 2018. I'd also like to thank my upbringing as a San Francisco Giants fan. Without that, I don't know if I would have realized all the parallels between the 2010 and 2023 World Series. I'd also like to thank my classmates back in high school nearly a decade ago for making me interested in soccer. I would not have known so much about Arsenal had it not been for that. I would also like to thank fate for bringing me to Texas 2 years ago and the Dallas-Fort Worth area last year. Without that, I would not have been so intrigued to look into Texas history. If I hadn't moved up to the Metroplex, I would not have known about Major League Cricket since they had games up here. Finding the Major League Cricket and World Series riddle in early August is what really got the ball rolling for me on realizing that the Rangers had a great narrative to win the World Series. You can expect the World Series to end on either October 31st or November 1st. October 31st is 93 days after the MLC championship game, and November 1st is 13 weeks and 3 days later, and MI New York equals 133. This date is of course written 11/1, and I've already touched on the importance of 111 multiple times in this video. Have we identified a World Series winner and a potential end date for the World Series? We shall wait and see. I would also like to thank M-Cubed and StatMuse for making this research so much more easier by showing the team records in either spans or against another team. You get it. So I ask you, is everything that I just talked about merely a coincidence? Or is it evidence of a meticulously planned out script that ties in current events and sports and deceives the masses into making them think that everything is real when in fact it's all planned out?